Could you talk about the systematic human rights violations that have been going on in Kashmir for decades? And explain exactly what the revocation of these two articles means for the way in which Kashmir will be governed.
And I've been thinking about it obviously the last 4 days, and I increasingly begin to see it as the latest betrayal and a stab in the back in a long series of betrayals going back to 47. Because as we all know, Kashmir was to be sold via a referendum where India and Pakistan were to ask Kashmiris what do they want, and that was not a Kashmiris hadn't decided that by themselves. It was a promise made by India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru to the people of Kashmir, to the India's Parliament, and at the UN. Subsequently, the referendum promise has never been on it. After 49, Delhi essentially managed Kashmir via client elites, having people friendly to their position in power in Kashmir, mostly by managing elections locally and not allowing Kashmiri people a true voice in their destiny. Now, when the armed insurgency began in 1989, you have to understand it so, because I don't see this as in isolation. This goes back to everything that the Indian state has done in Kashmir. And to Kashmiris, India has always treated Kashmir as a colony. Why do I say that? Because, when you have 70,000 people dead, killed in the last 30 years, you have about 8,000, 9,000 unmarked and mass graves in the mountains of Kashmir, which haven't seen much investigation or conversation around the world. As soon as 2016, India, considers itself the world's largest democracy, and numerically speaking, it is the world's largest democracy. But Kashmiris see it as the world's cruelest democracy. Why do I say that? In 2016, the Indian state responded to protests on the streets of Kashmir by blinding Kashmiri youth on the streets of Kashmir. What do I mean by blinding? They used a Victorian-era gun called the buckshot weapon, buckshot gun, which releases a spray of lead pellets in the air to catch, prey in flight. And it caught all these protesters in their eyes. So about, hundreds and hundreds of people were injured in their eyes, out of which about more than 100 have lost vision for life, either partially or completely. So you have to see this latest sort of siege and the revocation in the larger context of what has happened in Kashmir all these years, which is a tragic story of brutalization of Kashmiri people. And that is that's why I say this move is going to have unimaginable consequences, because Kashmiris will not see this as just a small step by a political party that is undoubtedly pandering to its right-wing majoritarian Hindu base in India by teaching these ungrateful Kashmiris a lesson, by revoking their whatever nominal autonomy they had within the Indian constitution. They see it as yet another stab in the back. It's this latest revocation is a low blow. It packaged with humiliation of Kashmiris, that not only are we not going to let you decide your future, we're also going to snatch away the little bit of autonomy that previous regimes had, promised you. So I really worry, and I'm really worried about what will happen in the next few days or weeks when, Kashmiris sort of make sense of what has been done to them by essentially an occupying power. Kashmiris have always seen their region, their lives being governed by an occupying state from Delhi.